Suddenly, the boy wakes up from loud NPC noises as people panic nearby, telling the boy to wake up because he is not breathing. The main boy, Zephyr's eyes snap open as someone calls him the new guy. Before he can move, cold water splashes over his head, shocking him fully awake. Looking up, he finds himself in a rocky tunnel surrounded by rough men who were checking if he was dead. One of them smirks, confused by Zephyr's sudden awareness, while Zephyr studies their faces and feels like he has seen them before. Zephyr's eyes lock onto a strange brand on one man's shoulder, and the memory hits him hard. A cruel laugh slips out as he realizes they sent him back 10 years to when he was 20. Though reborn as a slave, in the past, Zephyr was humanity's final hero. During the final fight against the god, where the world is breaking, Zephyr's downfall reaches its final moment. As blood drips from torn armor, the Demon King, Tartarus, calls Zephyr the last human and acts like the win is already decided. With a smug look, Tartarus claims the victory for himself. Caught off guard, Zephyr gets stabbed down and coughs up blood from the hit. Even while collapsing, he forces himself to stay conscious. Dragging his sword and panting through the flames, Zephyr admits the world already ended. Looking over the ruined city and demons everywhere, he remembers how humanity was wiped out and he kept fighting alone. The same nightmare replays in his head, with the war lost and survivors turned into mindless hosts for monsters. Still, he tells himself he pushed on until this very moment. Tartarus steps closer through the smoke, towering over Zephyr like a final boss. Zephyr recognizes him as the god of destruction and the lord of demons. With a calm smile, Tartarus offers help and wraps Zephyr in glowing magic to keep him alive a little longer. The demon says he wants a talk before the end. Leaning in, Tartarus says Zephyr has been a huge annoyance and even praises his stubborn will. While walking forward, he jokes that only fools keep fighting a losing battle. Tartarus adds that giving up from fear is not wise either, then ends the thought with one cruel word. He calls Zephyr weak. As his wings spread, Tartarus says he hates weak opponents, yet admits Zephyr reached the peak of humans. Then, he makes an offer for Zephyr to serve him. Tartarus promises they could conquer beyond this world, even the home of the gods, together. Hearing it, Zephyr stays silent, sweating as he studies the trap. Still acting friendly, Tartarus asks if Zephyr really means to join him and waits for the answer. With a simple nod and a smile, he says of course. Zephyr says it sounds like a decent deal, but he knows it is nonsense because his body is already ruined beyond recovery. Realizing Tartarus just wants him to beg, Zephyr refuses to play along. In his mind, Zephyr pictures Tartarus laughing while everything he loved was taken away. Even so, Tartarus reaches out, and Zephyr's shaking hand rises to meet him. At the last second, Zephyr closes the distance like he is accepting the handshake, but his eyes stay sharp. He remembers her lover's words about being too aggressive and not swearing so much. Zephyr thinks about how she used a silly spell on him when he would not listen. Then the moment turns violent as Zephyr grabs hard instead of submitting. Tartarus flinches, shocked by the sudden move, and Zephyr reveals the trick. Touching like this triggers power from another dimension. Zephyr gathers that dangerous energy, ready to die if it means hurting Tartarus. With his voice full of spite, Zephyr gives his answer and calls Tartarus by name. Then he snaps and tells him to screw off, shouting one last insult as the power burns in his hand. With no time to react, the stored energy erupts and slams into Tartarus point blank. Zephyr gets blasted back in the shockwave, but he keeps his eyes on the target. The explosion crashes through the air like thunder, throwing debris and light everywhere. Tartarus gets swallowed by smoke and fire as the blast finishes. For the first time, Tartarus's eye widens in real surprise. He stares at his arm and realizes something is wrong with his hand. Tartarus looks down, confused and tense, asking what happened to it. The shock on his face turns into a cold, dead silence. That silence snaps into rage, with Tartarus's eyes burning like a monster who lost control. A scream tears out of him. Grinding his teeth, Tartarus glares like he wants to erase Zephyr from existence. Through the clearing smoke, his body trembles with humiliation. Tartarus curses Zephyr and rants about being humiliated by a pathetic human. Then he charges in and smashes Zephyr with a brutal slam. Zephyr's body crumples into the ground, ending the fight in bitter defeat. In his fading thoughts, he admits he failed to avenge anyone or save humanity. But then, his fingers twitch like the story refuses to end. Suddenly, Zephyr wakes up on a cold blue floor, staring in confusion as if death got cancelled. Still dazed, Zephyr pushes himself up and wonders what is happening. Feeling his skin and armor, he notices his wounds are healed and everything looks brand new. Looking around, he finds himself in a glowing temple-like hall filled with huge statues. Seeing them, he wonders if this place is some kind of divine sanctuary. After swallowing his fear, Zephyr guesses this is the afterlife and assumes it must be the underworld. The idea almost makes him laugh from how messed up his luck is. A voice corrects him, saying this is not the underworld but the lowest level of the gods' pantheon. As he turns, a strange shimmer of light appears deeper inside the hall. Out of that glow, a winged woman descends like a calm miracle, feathers drifting around her. Her face is gentle, but the power around her looks sus. Zephyr tries to reach for his weapon by habit, ready to fight anything. His hand freezes when he realizes he cannot summon his sword at all. The angel tells him not to panic and introduces herself as Mercedes, a messenger of the gods. She calmly explains Zephyr is already dead, and normally he would have been sent away immediately. Instead, she says the three supreme gods decided to send him back in time. Hearing that, Zephyr's eyes narrow as he demands what she means. Mercedes explains he will return to the past with his memories, but not his training, mana, or gained skills. Still, she says he was the strongest human, so he should recover his strength again quickly. Zephyr stays quiet, trying to figure out if this is real or some trick. He tells himself Tartarus cannot make people hallucinate like this, so it must be true. Letting out a tired sigh, Zephyr asks why they would give him a second chance at all. He says he does not need proof, he just wants the real reason. Not wanting to be used again, Zephyr points out that nothing is free, and the gods always want something back. With a hard stare, he calls out the deal as a transaction. Zephyr remembers how the gods abandoned humanity during the slaughter, ignoring prayers and cutting off the priest's power. He calls them calculating monsters who never give anything for free. That bitter memory lingers as Mercedes finally answers, saying she will let the gods speak for themselves. With a blink of her bright eyes, Mercedes channels their message. She explains the gods want something more entertaining from Zephyr. Zephyr's face tightens as the words sink in. He can barely process it and only manages a stunned, angry reaction. Mercedes says the gods were disappointed to see him die, because humans rarely fight that hard when death is certain. She even admits they were impressed watching him struggle against demons for years. She reminds him how he got luckier near the end, and says it was because some gods secretly supported him even at a karmic cost. Hearing that excuse, Zephyr's anger spikes and he moves to strike. Zephyr attacks, but a holy force slams him down and stops him cold. Shaking with rage, he curses the gods and demands to know if his suffering was just a show. In his mind, he sees that woman again and remembers fighting desperately just to live. Clenching his fist in the present, he repeats the question, furious that they treated it like entertainment. Zephyr shouts that humans did not fight to amuse gods, and that they have no right to judge their worth. Mercedes raises a glowing spell, ready to shut down his outburst. A giant holy symbol forms above, and the pressure crushes Zephyr into the floor like a warning. He slams into stone, grunting as the temple itself trembles. The shock spreads through the ground in cracking waves, like the place is scolding him too. A massive hand-like force stomps down, sealing his rebellion. Mercedes lowers her hands, and the pressure eases, but the message is clear. She tells Zephyr to show respect because the gods are watching. Leaning close, Mercedes corrects him and says only Zephyr was entertaining to them, not humans as a whole. Hearing that, Zephyr wipes his mouth, swallowing his hatred for now. Mercedes explains that if he wants anything from the gods, he must prove he is worth their time, and the same goes for the whole human race. Zephyr grits his teeth, the insult cutting deeper than the pain. With a snap, Mercedes says there is another reason someone insisted on bringing him back. Zephyr looks up, confused about who else could be involved. In another place, something crashes loudly, like a tantrum from a giant child. The sound shakes the calm room, and it feels like trouble is forcing its way in. Tartarus storms around, screaming at angels and demanding a manager, furious about being hurt by a mere human. He rants that he conquered worlds and wants the record erased like it never happened. Even if it costs him karma, Tartarus demands the shame be removed and refuses to accept any stain on his name. Back with Mercedes, she explains his goal is to destroy as many worlds as he can, and he never lost a fight until now. Mercedes says Zephyr broke Tartarus's perfect record, hitting his pride harder than any weapon. Hearing that, Zephyr realizes Tartarus wants him back for revenge and calls him petty in his mind. Mercedes confirms Tartarus wants a rematch to restore his perfect score, and she asks Zephyr what he will do. Zephyr sits in silence, weighing the offer like a blade at his throat. A breath escapes Zephyr as he almost laughs at how insane it is. With his fist clenched, he asks if she is kidding, because the deal is basically sending him back to be hunted again. Then Zephyr's eyes turn sharp and cold, and he says if Tartarus wants to die, he will gladly kill him. At that choice, light flashes, like the system accepts his answer. Mercedes begins the process saying, Zephyr will return to a random point in the past and receive special perks from supporting gods. Zephyr thinks he hates the gods, but an opportunity is still an opportunity, and this time he wants revenge on Tartarus and on the gods who treated humans like trash. Mercedes says the coordinates are set and the final approval to bend space-time is complete. With a calm smile, she wishes Zephyr luck and says she hopes he puts on a good show. The magic circle roars and swallows him in a rushing light. In the darkness after, distant noises and frantic voices start to bleed in, like he is waking inside another life. Which he is. So if you're enjoying this video so far, click that like button and subscribe to the channel now. Back to the present, Zephyr remembers this place clearly now. He used to be a slave in a temple, worked until his body broke. Nearby, a guard shouts that break time is over, and the men quickly pretend nothing happened. A big thug leans close and threatens Zephyr, saying if he pulls anything again, he is dead. Zephyr just chuckles and shrugs it off, acting like it does not matter. The thug gets mad and steps forward, but the others drag him away, while Zephyr wipes his face and thinks he has no time for these small pests. Just then, a tired kid stumbles nearby, catching Zephyr's attention. The kid thanks Zephyr for protecting him, and Zephyr wonders who he is, because the timeline is fuzzy after 10 years. Even so, Zephyr decides it will be annoying to get used to being powerless again. Remembering Mercedes' words, Zephyr pauses and thinks about the perks he was promised. In his mind, he repeats the instruction to unlock perks whenever he wants, and he prepares to test it right now. While workers trudge away down the tunnel, Zephyr stays back and speaks softly to activate the gift. With a quiet whisper, he commands the perks to unlock. A bright light pours down around him like a private spotlight, and Zephyr stands inside it as if chosen. As he stares ahead, he suddenly notices something appearing and asks what it is. A slow grin spreads across his face as he realizes what the gods handed him. With a mix of disbelief and excitement, Zephyr admits he cannot believe they gave him this. Two miners whisper that the new guy is crazy good, and they can't tell if he has worked a mine before. Nearby, Zephyr keeps swinging his pick fast, making the loud clanging look effortless. Before long, the ore piles up in thick sacks like someone dumped a whole day's work at once. Watching him, the workers admit they wish he was on their side, because now nobody can slack off. Even Zephyr is shocked, thinking this whole situation and his own output still feels unreal. Then a system message appears, telling him the perks he has unlocked as green light rises around him. With his head pounding, he complains the rush of information is too much to take at once. As his eye widens, he panics and wonders what all these new prompts even are. While glowing panels float around, he realizes these are super high-level skills and items he never had before. Grinning in disbelief, he thinks someone just handed him an insane amount of power. A rough foreman storms over and yells at him, catching him distracted instead of working. Boots thud closer as the foreman orders him to get back to his spot right now. Marching forward, the foreman makes it clear he won't go easy just because it's the man's first day. Seeing who it is, Zephyr recognizes him as the head of the mining team. The foreman curses the crew as lazy and says they never listen unless he stops being nice. With anger boiling, the foreman swings his whip to teach them a lesson. With no time to react, Zephyr grabs the whipping cord barehanded and halts it mid-air. Staring hard, the foreman freaks out, unable to understand how the whip got caught like that. Keeping it calm, Zephyr bows, apologizes, and says he will return to work. Still stunned, the foreman watches him walk away like nothing happened. In his mind, the man explains his combat experience makes a slow whip easy to stop. Checking his hand, he's shocked there isn't even a scratch left behind. A perk screen explains wall of iron, and he notes he feels no fatigue and could work all day if he activates it right. As he keeps mining, he thinks the first perk is solid, and he counts that he received 9 perks total for his plan. When a clerk sees the mountain of ore, they drop what they're holding in surprise. Looking over the hall, the clerk praises him, clearly shaken by how much he produced. Later, the camp gathers as someone announces they finished counting today's haul and will read the rankings. Team F is called first, and the small kid on that team celebrates while Zephyr realizes the kid is with his team. Meanwhile, Team B gets second, and their guys glare around, confused and angry about losing. The rest gets rushed through, and Team E ends up last, causing cheers on one side and despair on the other. The foreman explains the policy. The last place team's food and supplies get given to the top 3 teams. As the teams split apart, an order comes down for everyone to start praying to the goddess of light, Arya. In front of the temple, the crowd raises their hands and repeats prayers, begging Arya to redeem them with eternal light. Standing in the middle, Zephyr claps along but thinks the whole redemption talk is trash. A statue is shown as narration explains Arya's temple is the biggest religion in the land and also the biggest moneylender. As the day ends, exhausted workers trudge back, talking about how badly they just want sleep. Walking through the crowd, Zephyr thinks many of these people were adventurers, until the temple trapped them with medical debt. His gaze falls on the slave mark on his arm, and he reminds himself leaving without permission with his mark means instant death. With his next steps clear, he vows to repay his debts fast, then swears he won't lose so easily to Tartarus this time. Clenching his focus, he promises payback for everything Tartarus did to him. As dark memories hit, a hand reaches out in a storm of purple energy, like someone is being pulled from a nightmare. Through the blazing light, a winged woman reaches toward him, surrounded by crackling power. tears in her eyes, she smiles softly, like she's happy he's still here. The scene fades into a purple glow as he whispers the name, Altair. Back in the present, he grips his chest and swears that this time he will protect her. At the temple counter, a priestess invites anyone needing items or a consultation to come forward, while people shout orders. A price sign hits hard, showing even a glass of beer costs a painful amount of silver. Watching the stall, Zephyr thinks it's still shocking how expensive everything is here. The kid nervously approaches him and asks if they can buy him a drink. Looking back, he bluntly asks the kid if they even have any money. The kid shows a few coins and admits it's not enough for anything expensive. Still, the kid thanks him for saving them from bullies earlier and says it's why their team got first place. With an embarrassed smile, the kid admits their whole team is weak and usually ends in last, so money is rare for them. Hearing that, Zephyr understands why those other guys kept targeting the kid. Thinking it through, he notes one sick worker drops output, so teams try to sabotage others to climb the rankings. Not wanting pity, he refuses to let a kid pay for him and tells the kid to stay back because they would slow him down. Turning to the vendor, he gets greeted warmly and asked what he wants to buy. With a serious face, he asks if they have any recovery water. The vendor says they haven't seen him before, then warns recovery water is pricey and suggests waiting it out if he's not badly hurt. Ignoring the advice, he drops 1.5 gold on the counter with a clean jingle. Calmly, he says he will take a loan for the rest and demands the paperwork right away. Behind him, the kid trembles in panic, totally scared by how reckless that sounds. A stamp slams down on the contract, sealing the deal like there's no turning back. As the kid yells about terrifying debt and huge interest, Zephyr opens a bottle and tells them to be quiet. While chugging without hesitation, he shrugs and says he'll just pay it back. A note explains recovery water is popular because it restores endurance, and most people don't know it can boost mana if you drink a lot. With his new perk boosting potions by a massive amount, he realizes this water will finally be worth it for him. Back in the mines, he works beside the kid and thinks grinding harder won't earn bonuses here anyway. His hand grabs more bottles as the clinking piles up, showing he's stocking up like a man on a mission. Sweating hard, he pushes his body through brutal training, building strength the old-school way too. Later, the foreman hears a report and asks if someone heard a monster deep in the mine. Standing at the doorway, Zephyr tells him to inform the hunting team, and he offers to guide them to the sound. With a confident, sharp stare, he smiles like he's been waiting for this kind of chance. Monsters are born when mana gets twisted, and while they've been a big problem for humans, they also became a resource for stones, bones, and gear. Because of that, people started treating dungeons like dangerous treasure chests that can pay out if you survive. With purple mana drifting through the halls, the story points out how these lairs pull people in with rewards even when death is waiting. Before the action starts, heavy boots march in, loud and confident like a team that's done this too many times. A small group approaches together, the kind that looks like they're here for a job, not for glory. We're told this is a hunting team made of hand-picked slaves with combat skills, paid well because the work is insane. Meanwhile, Zephyr thinks it's weird that an adventurer like him got stuck working mines, and he knows there has to be a reason. An old lender snaps him out of his thoughts and says he's cut off because Zephyr can't borrow more money. Even when Zephyr wonders about some daily limit, the answer is simple. He already hit the max. End of story. Hearing that, Zephyr seriously considers stealing, while a sweet-looking nun casually suggests selling organs like it's normal. Not buying the act, Zephyr stares her down while she keeps smiling like she's offering a gift. When Zephyr asks for paperwork, she promises everything is fair and even schedules the operation, which freaks a guard out. Instead of backing off, Zephyr orders a ridiculous amount of recovery water, and the lender groans but gives in. As Zephyr chugs like a maniac, The nun praises him, while the lender nearby mutters that another guy is about to get dragged to the lab. Right after, Zephyr sets the bottles down in a neat line, and the nun watches him like she's seen this kind of crazy before. With a satisfied grin, Zephyr thinks he's finally met the requirements for whatever plan he's cooking. A boot slams down hard, cutting the calm with the sound of trouble walking in. A knight asks if the white-haired miner is Zephyr, the one who's supposed to guide them to the monster. Zephyr answers with perfect timing and a smug look, acting like he's been waiting for them. The leader introduces himself as Gote, head of the recon unit, and names his two men as Dale and Marco. Zephyr says he lacks night vision but can do mana detection, then offers a polite handshake to start things clean. The narration explains that night vision and mana detection are key skills for sneaking through dark dungeons without getting jumped. Gote likes that because it saves money on potions, and he says they'll head out as soon as Zephyr is ready. They dump their supplies on Zephyr to carry, and Dale laughs at the idea of a mana-using miner doing pack mule work. As he hauls the load, someone jokes about Zephyr clearing the dungeon for them, and another voice shuts Dale up fast. Thinking it over, Zephyr notices two unfamiliar faces but recognizes one person in the group and stays alert. He remembers that after clearing this dungeon last time, he got transferred, which means two of these guys are supposed to die in here. Instead of panicking, Zephyr smiles and decides he can use that future knowledge to his advantage. The march continues, each step feeling like the countdown to something nasty. They reach a forest path, and even the armored leader lets out a breath like the real work is about to start. At the dungeon entrance, a standby unit waves them over, showing they're not the only ones watching this place. A masked handler says they're the standby unit and tells everyone to hold out their hands. One by one, the recon team steps up and gets checked like tools being counted before a mission. When Zephyr's turn comes, a rope bracelet gets tied onto his wrist and he watches without flinching. The handler explains the bracelets will snap if someone gets hurt or dies, and that's the signal to call backup. Since it's only a recon job, the handler tells them to just be careful, then wishes them luck as they head in. They file into a narrow rock passage, with Zephyr in front like the guide and the others trailing behind. Going deeper, the tunnel swallows the light, and the footsteps echo like they're walking into a mouth. The cave walls tighten around them, and the shadows start to feel alive. A clawed hand taps the stone ahead, hinting that something is already moving in the dark. Two kobolds step out with a torch and a blade, looking cocky like easy prey just showed up. A rock suddenly whips in from the side, making the kobolds freeze in confusion. The stone rolls to a stop near their feet, and both monsters stare at it like it's a puzzle. Before they can react, the recon team rushes in, closing the gap instantly. Gote slices one kobold clean, fast enough that the torchlight almost lags behind the cut. The narration reminds us recon units scout and gather info, but they still kill if they must. The kobold drops hard, the torch hissing on the ground as the fight ends like a routine chore. It explains the usual flow. Recon finds out what's inside, then a strike unit forms and clears the place with force. Zephyr crouches and studies the area like he's reading the cave itself, not just walking through it. One of the dead kobolds looks like a leftover straggler, almost too weak to matter. Gote points out their main habitat was raided last week, so the survivors must be hiding deeper inside. Even though it's recon, the unit is still made of fighters, and Gote calls out to Dale and Marco while testing the ground. Gote suggests they handle the rest themselves, since sometimes recon teams clear dungeons if they think it's easy. Marco and Dale look surprised, like they didn't expect their boss to be that bold. Dale warns that their job is only to scout and that taking extra risks is stupid. As Dale argues about stronger monsters and being outnumbered, Gote calmly corrects him that they are 4, not 3. Dale snaps that Zephyr doesn't count because he's just carrying stuff, and he says there's no way they can clear it alone. Marco tries to calm Dale down and asks Gote to explain the plan before they decide anything. Goat answers with a smug look, like he's already sure this is going his way. He tells Zephyr to take something out of the bag, and Zephyr starts rummaging without hesitation. What comes out is a bundle of moonbush leaves and berries, the kind of plant most people don't just have on hand. Gote explains the disgusting trick. Grind it, mix it with kobold filth, and it smells like a female in heat, which makes Dale gag. Because the stink carries far, Gote says it can lure kobolds from hundreds of feet away. A kobold sniffs the air, already getting pulled by the scent like it can't help itself. The monster starts licking its chops, drooling like it's found the best thing in the world. Holding his nose, Gote says they'll use that stinky bait to set a trap. The kobold charges in excited and panting, sprinting like it's late for a date. The moment it hits the trap zone, it slips hard on the prepared ground and loses balance. As it flops into the pit, the plan becomes clear. Lure them, drop them, and finish them fast. Looking down at the trapped limbs and spikes, Gote brags that it worked, and Marco praises him while Gote soaks up the ego. Gote claims the plant idea came from experience, but Zephyr thinks to himself that he was the one who told Gote about it. Zephyr remembers his first life, when he worked in the same unit as Gote after being transferred to the hunting team. Back then, Gote wanted recognition badly, but never got the chance to stand out. A flashback from before the team meeting was shown, Zephyr reported the dungeon was already clear, and Gote looked shocked. Zephyr watches Gote closely while the others move ahead, sensing the same hunger for credit. Zephyr calmly admits he already checked the dungeon alone yesterday and says only a few kobold stragglers remain. Gote can't believe he went solo, but Zephyr says he used to handle recon in his old party and has a talent for finding things. Gote thinks it through and asks if Zephyr really believes the four of them can clear the whole dungeon by themselves. Zephyr says it's Gote's call, but he should seriously consider taking the chance. Greed kicks in, and Gote decides it's a waste to share an easy dungeon while noting Zephyr could be useful. Gote thinks moon bushes are rare and likes that Zephyr came prepared and knows a lot about hunting monsters. On top of that, Gote likes that Zephyr gives him credit instead of stealing it, which feeds his pride. As unit head, Gote figures he can get Zephyr transferred to the hunting team, and he even hands Zephyr a small weapon to use. Zephyr bows politely and thanks him, pocketing the gift without showing much emotion. In his head, Gote assumes Zephyr is trying to impress him to escape his current life. Even so, Gote decides he isn't that desperate, and clearing a kobold dungeon isn't enough to truly impress him. Still, he chooses to take the credit for clearing it, even though he knows it's mostly Zephyr's effort behind it. Back to the present, with a clean sweep motion, Gote declares the last of them handled, acting like the dungeon is basically done. Marco laughs at how easy it was and complains the monastones are trash since they're only kobolds. Zephyr says this path is clear too, and Gote starts to suggest going to gather the others. Dale suddenly notices something off in the shadows ahead, and the mood shifts instantly. Crouching down, Dale finds bones and wonders if they're leftovers, like something was eating in here. Looking closer, he questions if they're animal bones, but the structure feels wrong. Then it hits him. These bones look like kobold bones, and a huge presence reaches out from the darkness. A massive limb grabs Dale mid-motion, and his eyes go wide as he realizes he's caught. In one brutal slam, Dale gets smashed into the rock like he's nothing but a rag doll. Gote screams Dale's name, shocked that something moved that fast and that hard. The monster tosses Dale aside, and he tumbles across the ground in a broken roll. Seeing Dale fly, Gote shouts again, the panic finally cracking through his leader act. Marco grits his teeth and grabs his hammer tight, forcing himself to face whatever just hit them. With mana flaring, Marco throws up a shield spell and yells for everyone to get behind him. Even while casting, Marco curses because he thought it was over, and now he has no clue what's hiding here. Trying to escape, Marco claims his mana shield can block even an orc chieftain, so nothing should break through it. That confidence gets crushed when the creature's tail whams into the barrier with insane force. Marco coughs blood and stares in disbelief, realizing his shield just got damaged like it was paper. The swing sends Marco flying, and Gote calls his name as the defense line collapses. Goat locks onto the tail and starts to understand what kind of monster this could be, and that thought terrifies him. The tail swings again, a blur of power that doesn't even look real. Gote's eyes widen as a whoosh of impact cuts the air right in front of him. A huge crash and a scream echo out, and outside the mountain, the world stays calm like it didn't hear a thing. Back at the entrance, the masked handler feels something is wrong and starts to panic. Remembering the bracelet rule, he sees 3 bracelets snap at once, meaning multiple people just got taken out. Staring into the dark, the handler wonders what in the world is happening inside that dungeon. Inside, blood drips onto the stone in thick puddles, showing how bad the ambush really was. Gote struggles up, breathing hard and covered in blood, barely holding himself together. His eyes shake with fear as he pants, realizing he might not walk out of this alive. Zephyr steps forward and activates a skill called Wall of Iron, bracing himself like a human shield. Even with that durability perk, Zephyr feels the impact through his arm and notes it still hurts. Watching the monster, Zephyr guesses it's less than a year old, but already way too powerful for this dungeon. The creature's thick tail slides past the fallen Dale like a snake dragging death across the floor. Then the tail lifts Dale's limp body, showing the monster is strong enough to toy with them. The full beast finally shows itself, towering and monstrous, while Zephyr stares up without blinking. Zephyr identifies it as a predator that tricks other monsters with pheromones, gets raised by them, then devours them once grown. Calm as ever, Zephyr reaches for Gote's spear and asks to borrow it, making Gote panic and question what he's doing. With a quick spin, Zephyr tests the weapon's balance, like he's picking the right tool for murder. He swings the spear in a clean arc, the air slicing around him as Gote watches from the ground in shock. Smiling like he's finally having fun, Zephyr thinks this is his chance to warm up properly. Gathering a bright mana orb in his hand, Zephyr says he wants to ask something, his tone suddenly cold. With a cruel grin, Zephyr asks what weapon the predator would prefer to die by as a mysterious third perk activates. A glowing mark appears on Zephyr's left hand, and he said he unlocked the Silver Key perk, which works like a storage room he can access anytime. With a calm look, Zephyr shows he can make items pop out of that hidden space, basically turning his hand into an inventory. Gote stares as a purple herb and a strip of cloth drop to the ground, and he recognizes the herb as dragon weed that calms the mind. Telling Gote to stay back, Zephyr wraps the cloth tight around his weapon grip to steady himself for what's coming. Not wasting time, he says it's about to get intense, and Gote freaks out because he can't understand why a miner is stepping up. As the predator looms closer, Gote tries to talk sense into him, but Zephyr keeps moving while Gote swears he won't die hiding behind a miner. A sudden rush of pressure hits, and the predator lets out a brutal roar that shakes the whole area. That roar triggers a fear skill that paralyzes Gote on the spot, and while trembling, he remembers an older soldier's warning about this nightmare. His mind flashes back to a past attack on a town where even strong villagers could only stand there clutching farm tools. In that memory, a huge predator terrorized everyone, and the townspeople watched helplessly, like their bodies were locked. The fear was so bad it showed in their eyes, and Marco realizes they couldn't even blink, let alone run. All they could do was wait for their turn, and that same doom hangs over Gote as he sits frozen in place. Then metallic clashes ring out, and Gote snaps in confusion because something is fighting back against the fear. More slashes slice through the air, and Gote panics, trying to understand what kind of crazy sound and speed he's hearing. A blue arc whips past, and Zephyr is suddenly trading blows up close, scraping past claws with perfect timing. The predator roars again and swings hard, but Zephyr hops and dashes away, barely dodging a purple death swipe. Spitting out the dragonweed, Zephyr confirms it really cancels fear, and he notes his perk boosts potion effects by a huge amount, even though only one perk is a real weapon. Reaching into his hidden storage, he pulls out a green vial and calls it an old friend, Belial, one of Fade's deadly poisons. In his head, he recalls how Fade, one of his allies in his first life, once chose to share his formulas because the world was ending and he wanted them used, not wasted. Back in the fight, Zephyr braces as the predator crashes in, and he holds on through the impact like he's carrying Fade's wish on his back. Fade's twisted smile flashes in memory, and the poison-coated strike lands, marking the start of a slow, cruel countdown. Zephyr swings again and the predator screams, showing the poison is biting deep. As the beast thrashes, Zephyr explains Belial spreads through the blood and eats away organs, and that pain is the point because Fade was a sadist. With only minutes to survive, Zephyr keeps stabbing and jabbing non-stop, trying to last until the poison finishes the job. The predator's massive tail swing tears through the space, and Zephyr gets blasted back as the predator whips around for another hit. He slams into the rocks and tumbles, and the shock in his eyes says he knows he can't take many more of those. The predator lunges with its mouth wide, but Zephyr tosses the poison bottle forward like bait to force an opening. Using that split second, he hops onto the monster's body and raises his weapon, refusing to let the pressure push him off. The predator roars and bucks wildly, and Zephyr counts the time left in his head, realizing it's down to the last minute. Clenching his grip, he braces and rushes towards the predator without wasting a single second. Knowing he can't fully escape with his current skill, Zephyr decides he either waits for collapse or finishes it himself, and a fast blue streak shoots out. He drives in close and strikes again, but the tail comes down like a hammer, pushing him to the edge. Caught mid-motion, his arms strain as he grabs and rides the tail's movement, using it to stay airborne instead of getting crushed. Almost losing his hold, he forces himself to hang on a little longer, then drops at the exact moment he needs. Spinning through the air, Zephyr lines up a clean angle and screams as he commits to a full-power dive. He slams down hard onto the predator's head area, and the beast roars straight up at him, still fighting like it won't die. A brutal swing snaps his spear shaft, but even then, Zephyr twists the broken weapon in his hands, turning the disaster into a new tool. With a cold stare, he drives the broken piece in again, then smoothly reaches back and draws his dagger. He signals there's another strike coming, and the dagger plunges deep into the predator's eye without hesitation. The predator screams and thrashes, and Zephyr rides the shaking body, planting himself like a nail that won't come out. His hand scrapes for balance as he gasps for air, still pushing forward even while his muscles start to fail. Feeling his arm twitch, he reminds himself there's one last hit left, then leaps again off the monster's body to set it up. In his mind, he reveals the real plan. He prepared tons of recovery water in advance, and with Hermes' perk-boosting potions, chugging many bottles gives him a huge mana boost. Now stacked with mana from all those bottles, Zephyr gathers power, aiming for a strike strong enough to pierce even a predator's skull. Using a basic mana technique, he releases everything at once, crashing down in a glowing blue blast that splits the ground under the predator. As the shockwave fades, Gote laughs weakly in relief, but he admits he judged Zephyr wrong and realizes beating a small dungeon isn't some cheap trick. He clenches his fist, thinking Zephyr doesn't need to impress anyone and will rise fast, even if right now he's still just a miner who needs permission to enter dungeons. Finally, Zephyr turns and explains that's exactly why he needed help getting into the dungeon. Then he calls out to Gote because they need to talk. In a bright forest, someone is panting hard as the air turns tense. A battered man struggles to breathe beside a bloody body, and it's clear the hunt already went bad. With chains rattling, a huge brute drags a spiked ball while the man on the ground begs that he is not a cultist. Still grinning, the brute reminds him they entered the temple together. Like that excuse means nothing. Sahak steps forward as the victim desperately pleads for Sahak to believe him. Close up, the man swears he doesn't worship demons, panicking as tears and sweat run down his face. Instead of mercy, Sahak coldly orders him to be crushed. Smiling, without hesitation, the brute swings the chained weapon in a brutal arc. From above, the spiked ball whips across the clearing, with bodies and dropped weapons scattered around. One of the robed figures twitches on the ground, barely alive after the hit. Out of the blood and shadow, a marked centipede creeps into view, sliding towards someone's face. The centipede forces its way into a mouth, making the whole scene instantly horrifying. Right then, an agent blasts forward in a blur, striking hard to stop it. A glowing blade is revealed as someone explains that creature was a marked centipede. Licking the blade like a psycho, the hooded agent claims he knew the target was a Tartarus worshiper. The scene cuts to a grand office where a superior mocks the wasteful kill count used to catch one rat. Sahak sits near a jar holding a curled centipede, and the superior asks if this mess was really urgent. Leaning in, Sahak explains to Inquisitor Matthias that the other unit members are likely already converted. With a sharp stare, he warns there's only a month until the raid, so they must weed heretics out fast. Backlit by the window, the Inquisitor stays silent, letting the pressure hang in the air. Finally, the Inquisitor agrees to smooth things over with the hunting team, acting calm but commanding. Then his tone shifts as he demands real results and warns Sahak not to embarrass him. With no room to argue, Sahak answers that he understands and will follow orders. Outside, the temple buildings glow under the warm sky, looking peaceful for a place this ruthless. In human resources, Captain Gote submits transfer paperwork for Zephyr, a new miner moving to the hunting team. The clerk explains the risk. If the transfer messes up unit performance, it can hurt Gote's promotions and rewards. Smiling under his helmet, Gote quickly agrees to the terms like he's already counting the benefits. As Zephyr stands beside him, Gote thinks if the guy does well, all the credit will go to him. In his head, Gote laughs that life is luck, and he can't believe he landed a prize like this. A flashback begins in the dungeon from the day before, where Gote is told to pretend the predator fight never happened. Suspicious, Gote asks if this is just about taking the monster's corpses for profit. Zephyr calmly says he only wants the predator, and Gote can claim the rest was just kobolds. The rules get laid out. Dungeon loot like corpses and mana stones exist, but temple slaves aren't allowed to keep any of it. Even clearing dungeons only pays a reward and bonus, and Zephyr notes he'd make far more selling the loot outside. Gote points out the standby and follow-up units would catch any theft anyway, shutting down the easy scam idea. Not bothered, Zephyr says fine and asks to try a different approach. Placing a hand on the monster, he says there was something there, like he can feel what others can't. In a sudden surge, blue energy flashes and the huge corpse starts to vanish into swirling force. The wind whips across the ground and Zephyr notes that now there's nothing left, shocking Gote. Gote panics because this looks like an inventory skill, and most inventories can't hold anything that big. Even worse, he realizes the monster and the bloodstains are all gone, like the place was wiped clean. Turning back, Zephyr calls Gote's name like he's already in control of the deal. With power swirling around his fist, Zephyr tempts him by asking if he wants a promotion. Back in a room, Zephyr offers to clear 3 more dungeons for Gote, but in exchange he keeps the monster corpses. Gote explains he's stuck as leader because Recon doesn't fight much, and promotions depend on dungeon clears and battles. Thinking fast, he realizes Zephyr changes everything since Recon enters first, meaning they can clear dungeons alone and look amazing. In the end, Gote admits he wants to be promoted and says it's a great deal as long as they don't get caught. Meanwhile, Zephyr thinks selling predators could pay his debts and get him out, but he still has one thing to do here. He recalls the big raid in a month and the famous item they will find, and he swears he will take part and grab it to change the future. That goal repeats in his mind like a vow, locking his plan into place. Back in the present, Zephyr's registration is finalized, and he's told to take his tag to the armory for basic gear. The temple courtyard looks busy and normal, even though everyone here is trapped in a brutal system. As they walk, Zephyr thinks about his past life and how he missed the raid because he joined too late, since only a few are chosen. With a steady face, he says he has a plan, and now it's just about timing. Gote points out where the armory line is, then says he'll visit the hospital to check on Dale and Marco's injuries. Before leaving, Gote starts to mention getting belongings, but he notices something dangerous approaching behind them. Caught off guard, Gote yanks Zephyr down and tells him to lower his head fast. A foot steps into frame, heavy and close, like a threat walking right up to them. A group of Inquisitor agents marches past, led by a hulking brute dragging chains, and the pressure makes everyone freeze. As one hooded agent passes close, Zephyr stays calm, but Gote can barely breathe through the fear. From the agent's side view, his eye shifts as if he senses something off in Zephyr. Only after they pass does Gote finally exhale, like he just survived an accident. Gote explains these are the Inquisitor's official agents, slaves who work directly for him. Warning him seriously, Gote says to treat them like superiors, because they can label anyone a heretic and punish them without a trial. He points out Sahak, the Mad Hound, as the worst one, saying that guy lives to kill and never lets targets escape. Right then, the hooded Sahak calls out to them, and Gote and Zephyr both stiffen. A close eye shot shows Sahak locking on, sharp and hunting. Gote freaks out inside, wondering if Sahak heard everything they said. Sahak steps away from his group, saying something is bothering him. Pointing straight at him, Sahak calls Zephyr a minor, singling him out in front of everyone. With a smug smile, Sahak introduces himself as an agent of the Inquisitor and demands Zephyr's name and position. Zephyr's eyes narrow, reading the threat without flinching. Trying to protect him, Gote hurriedly explains Zephyr was just transferred to his team and offers to take responsibility. Sahak shuts Gote down instantly, making it clear he didn't ask for the captain's opinion. Then Sahak's killing intent explodes outward, and even from a distance it feels like a blade at the throat. Gote breaks into a sweat, shaken by the murderous aura that suddenly fills the space. From above, Sahak approaches while Gote and Zephyr stand still, trapped in the open courtyard. In Sahak's mind, he says he can tell for sure now, like his instincts just confirmed something. Facing Zephyr directly, Sahak senses a strange power just from him standing there, and he prides himself on having a bloodhound's senses. A tight shot shows Sahak thinking this guy is not normal at all. Behind Zephyr, a massive dragon-like aura rises, showing just how seriously powerful he is. Someone nearby mutters that he's dressed like a miner but just transferred, meaning he used to be on the mining team. The narration explains how new slaves take tests and fighters often get recruited, which makes Zephyr's placement seem even weirder. Sahak wonders why someone this strong was sent to mining and then suddenly nominated for the hunting team. Narrowing his eye, he decides the whole thing doesn't feel right. Without warning, Sahak dashes forward in a blur, closing the distance like a predator pouncing. In a wide shot, multiple agents rush in to surround Zephyr, while the brute spins his chained weapon to cut off escape. Grinning like he finally found a fun toy, Sahak says he's going to ask Zephyr a few questions. Zephyr stays cool and thinks Sahak is making this easy, even as he's warned to answer and not lie. Sahak corners Zephyr and says he will ask questions, warning him not to lie. As the square fills with tension, Sahak starts hinting at a dangerous group everyone fears. Zephyr calmly recognizes the name and shows he knows exactly what Sahak is talking about. In his mind, Zephyr recalls how the Tartarus worshippers betrayed humanity in the Great War and helped bring ruin. Keeping it simple, Zephyr says most nobodies only know them as a cult that fights the main faith. Sahak steps forward and claims there are clear traits that set those people apart. With a smug grin, Sahak brags he has a talent for sniffing them out, which is why he works under an inquisitor. Leaning in, Sahak says his instincts are screaming that Zephyr himself is a threat. To make it official, Sahak points his blade right at Zephyr's chest. Sahak declares the interrogation has begun, warning that every word and movement can be used against Zephyr. After a short pause, Zephyr asks to say something first, like he's not scared at all. Even while another agent yells at him, Sahak allows it, thinking he's in control. Zephyr suggests moving somewhere else, and Sahak questions why he would bother. Zephyr points out there are too many people watching, turning this into a public show. With a calm smile, Zephyr says he doesn't want to embarrass Sahak in front of everyone, which shocks him. Sahak laughs it off and taunts Zephyr about beating 5 agents alone, acting like it's impossible. Not caring anymore, Sahak decides it'll be fun to teach Zephyr a lesson the hard way. The group triggers a red magic field around Zephyr, trapping him inside a glowing formation. A system-like notice explains red field boosts allies inside it, and Sahak's aura surges as the buff kicks in. With the same skill still active, the red power keeps swelling, making them feel unbeatable. Zephyr narrows his eyes and thinks this should be interesting. Instead of panicking, Zephyr casually claps his hands, switching into a strange stance. Smirking, Zephyr says he'll go with this approach, settling his posture like a trained fighter. Watching closely, Sahak wonders if it's some weird martial arts stance and decides to wait. Sahak charges in full speed, shouting that he's invincible inside the red field. With his stats boosted, Sahak swings in close, aiming to overwhelm Zephyr instantly. A rapid exchange explodes between them, with red flashes popping as their moves collide. Reading the timing, Zephyr slips past the attack and sets up a clean counter. Sahak tries to dodge and reposition, but Zephyr keeps tracking him like it's easy. In one smooth motion, Zephyr ducks under the blade, turning defense into offense. A sharp strike lands and Sahak's head snaps back as blood sprays. Zephyr follows up with a brutal kick that sends Sahak crashing down hard. While Sahak tumbles, another agent rushes in, trying to capitalize on the opening. Sahak laughs through the pain, convinced he finally caught Zephyr. That confidence vanishes the moment Sahak realizes something is very wrong. As Zephyr's leg presses in, Sahak panics, thinking it feels like getting hit by steel. Zephyr clenches his fist, ready to end this exchange without mercy. A crushing barrage slams into Sahak's body, each hit stacking damage fast. Sahak coughs up blood, his body clearly losing the fight. His weapon slips from his grip and clatters away, leaving him exposed. Zephyr stands over the fallen Sahak, steady and unshaken, like that was warm-up. A soldier shouts a warning to Zephyr about an attack coming from the side. Without turning much, Zephyr blocks a heavy hit with a single arm, stopping it dead. For a moment, Zephyr's eyes widen, sensing the next threat and adjusting his breathing. He slides away as a wave of force tears through where he stood. A massive man swings a chained morning star, and Zephyr studies him with calm focus. The big guy grins and signals it's his turn, itching to smash something. Zephyr mocks him for finally speaking and jokes that he thought the guy was just Sahak's pet. Annoyed, the brute whips the chain with a hard swing, trying to catch Zephyr. The spiked ball crashes into the ground and blows stone apart, turning the plaza into rubble. Nearby watchers scream and scramble as rocks fly, realizing this isn't just a clean arrest anymore. One of the soldiers admits Zephyr is terrifying, even from the sidelines. Seeing Sahak wrecked so fast, they realize Zephyr's technique is something totally new. The chain weapon keeps ripping up the ground like it has a mind of its own. Still, Zephyr evades perfectly, weaving through the chain and debris without getting touched. Even as the swings get wider and heavier, Zephyr keeps slipping past every angle like he's reading the future. In the crowd, a soldier worries that if Zephyr wins, Sahak will be too humiliated to push an official arrest. Clenching up, the unit leader silently begs Zephyr to win because their whole group will suffer if he loses. Another agent whispers that it's already over for Zephyr, even though the fight says otherwise. They admit Zephyr is dodging well, but point out time is passing and the pressure won't stop. As the chain swirls faster, they think Zephyr is about to run out of time to keep avoiding hits. Zephyr suddenly grabs the chain mid-swing, stopping it with raw power inside the red aura. With a hard pull, Zephyr yanks the big guy off balance, dragging him toward the center. The brute's muscles bulge as he tries to resist, putting everything into not being pulled in. Even so, the chain twists tighter and the brute gets dragged anyway, shocked by Zephyr's strength. Zephyr stomps down, anchoring himself like a pillar before the finishing move. His eyes sharpen, locking onto the moment he wants to strike. Under his breath, Zephyr curses these guys, then moves with no hesitation. As Sahak tries to rise behind him, Zephyr's counter slashes through the red pressure and builds momentum. Sahak licks blood off his blade and decides he's done playing around. With rage boiling, Sahak tells Zephyr to get ready and vows to send him to jail from the start. Sahak rushes in, his sword low and red energy flaring, trying to end Zephyr in one burst. Boosted again, Sahak dashes like a bullet, aiming straight for a lethal hit. Zephyr whips the chain in a tight pattern, creating a moving wall that cuts off Sahak's path. Laughing, Zephyr says Sahak can't even see him, while the chain keeps slicing through the air. A fast slash grazes Zephyr's face, and that tiny hit instantly changes the mood. Sahak brags his boosted stats are way above normal, claiming Zephyr can't match his speed now. Sahak goes for the kill, swinging wildly as the red field powers him up even more. He laughs like a maniac, then freezes when he senses something coming back at him. In a sudden blue burst, Zephyr smashes Sahak in close, the chain and fist hitting like a hammer. The impact detonates the ground, blasting debris outward as Sahak gets slammed down. Sahak staggers, choking on shock, barely able to understand what just happened. Zephyr grabs Sahak by the head, sounding almost disappointed by how sloppy they fight. While slamming him, Zephyr asks if they even know how to work as a team. Sahak screams in disbelief, realizing the red field's speed and defense boost meant nothing. Zephyr drags Sahak across the broken plaza and points out he was so eager to win alone that he ignored the big guy. Still lecturing him, Zephyr says if Sahak wanted to show off speed, he should have used a real tank to cover him. The chain whips again as Sahak curses, trying to strike back from the ground. The brute yanks the chain and orders Zephyr to come closer, desperate to turn it into strength versus strength. With blue energy rising, Zephyr answers that he's talking to the brute, not Sahak. Zephyr mocks the brute's build and asks why he keeps throwing that chain instead of fighting up close. Then Zephyr pushes it further, asking if the brute is scared of hand-to-hand combat. Thinking back to his past life, Zephyr complains that a party running this badly would have gotten wrecked under his command. He activates a basic magic skill to boost his power, and the chains rattle as energy surges. With that boost, Zephyr swings the chain like a weapon of his own, turning their tool against them. The chain slams into the brute with heavy blows, battering him upward and back with pure force. When the dust clears, the plaza looks like a cratered battlefield, with enemies down and soldiers staring in disbelief as Zephyr exhales. Sahak coughs and crawls, cursing Zephyr and demanding to know who he really is. Zephyr replies that he assumed Sahak was an interrogator and acts like that question is weak. Turning away, Zephyr says Sahak has no right to know his identity, leaving him crushed and furious. From inside a building, a long-haired man watches Zephyr walk off in silence, clearly paying close attention. That watcher is stunned by what he saw and starts wondering if Zephyr was sent here for a bigger reason. With a chill in his thoughts, he questions if Zephyr was sent by their master, hinting something darker is coming. The crowd outside the building starts murmuring in shock, trying to figure out what just happened and why the fight ended like that. With Sahak smashed into the ground, the win is clear, and Zephyr walks away like it was nothing. Still conscious, Sahak glares up through sweat and pain, barely holding in his rage. Hearing Sahak scream threats, Zephyr just calls him a pathetic loser and keeps stepping forward. While leaving, he thinks the first part of his plan is done. And now, it's only about when the next person hears the news. From above, the path looks quiet as he walks off, convinced this is only a matter of time. But then, mid-step, his body suddenly locks up and his mood turns dark as he realizes something is wrong. Caught off guard, he drops hard to the ground, trying to brace himself but failing. As his hand trembles, he realizes he can't move and his whole body aches because he hit a mana freeze. Thinking fast, he admits the skill drained his mana way faster than expected, and he panics because he needs a way out. Right then, a purple vortex opens in the sky, announcing that the collection is about to begin. The swirling power grows even bigger, like the world itself is getting pulled into debt. A creepy spirit appears and introduces itself as Shylock, claiming it serves Uzra, the god of debt. With cold confidence, Shylock says his mana hit 0 and the payment for Wall of Iron will be collected now. Lying there, Zephyr remembers Wall of Iron isn't just a defense buff, and he senses the trap behind it. The skill stores all fatigue and damage as debt, and once mana hits 0, that pain slams back at once as Usra feeds on despair. The warning hits again in his head, reminding him how many adventurers died by trusting that sweet-looking skill. Staring with pure anger, he insults the debt god for watching fights like entertainment and trying to cash in. A blue barrier forms as Usra himself appears on a throne, pressing down with that heavy presence. The pressure keeps building, and the guy can only grit his teeth while the god's aura fills the air. Shylock starts measuring the total damage, swinging his chained weight with a smile. After a bright flash, the measurement finishes, and a countdown begins as if his life is about to be erased. As the number drops, his hand feels like lead, but he forces himself to act before it reaches 0. Even while the countdown keeps ticking, he admits he can't move, and fear starts creeping in. With time running out, he collapses again, body failing him while the next count hits. Desperate, he bites down and tears at his bandages, searching for something hidden inside. Finding a tiny vial in his wrappings, he realizes it's his emergency recovery water. The chain creaks overhead as the countdown continues, making every second feel louder. Up close, Usra's glowing eyes feel like judgment itself as the count nears the end. The final count hits, and the massive weight drops toward him like a debt collector's hammer. At the last possible moment, he pops the vial into his mouth and chugs it in one go. The weight slams down, but the system notes he has 1 mana point, canceling the collection countdown. The message repeats the same result, making it clear he barely saved himself by a single point of mana. Shylock backs off in purple smoke, saying the debt will be collected later, and the guy just lies there gasping. Still on the ground, he smirks and tells Usra he was ready, acting like this near-death scare was planned. In his mind, He remembers surviving the end of humanity before, so dodging one collection attempt feels easy to him. Looking up at the light, he decides that if he manages mana well, Wall of Iron is actually safe and insanely useful. Relaxing on the ground, he recalls the skill's value being around 500 gold and popular with berserkers. Even so, he admits it's way more than he can afford right now, and that grin says he's about to game the system. He flicks something with a smug thanks, like he just found a loophole and plans to use it. Somewhere beyond, Usra crushes something in anger, the sound and blood spray showing the god is not amused. Later, in a quiet room, Zephyr flinches awake to creaks and rattles, confused by the sudden change. Blinking at the ceiling, he wonders if he passed out, still trying to understand where he is. More creaking and rattling follows, pushing his confusion into full alarm. A nun leans over him and cheerfully says he's awake, asking if he slept well like this is normal. When he looks down, he realizes he's strapped spread eagle to a table, with tools laid out like he's on a butcher's menu. Trying to stay calm, he asks what she's doing, already sensing the answer is bad. With a sweet smile, she apologizes for surprising him and explains this place is their workshop, saying he must have been exhausted. Still smiling, she informs him the repayment period for his first shop loan expired an hour ago. Her expression flips to shock and outrage, like she can't believe he'd even think of dodging payment. As she grabs a blade, she lists his dangerous behavior, saying the temple now believes he has no intention to repay. A sharp jab lands, making the threat feel real and painfully close. Leaning in with scary eyes, she demands to know if he'll pay back his loans or not. In his head, he remembers using mana would bring Usra back again, so he decides he has to talk his way out and buy time until his dungeon reward. She shuts that down fast, saying they'll take his reward too, then grills him about daily loans and unpaid interest piling up. Her stare turns cruel as she suggests cutting out his organs right now, like she's offering a simple solution. Calling for help, she orders her men to move, and they respond like this is routine work. A blade slices through the rope on his wrist, not to free him, but to reposition him for the next step. The goons slam his arm down on the table and pin him in place beside the tools. With a dark grin, she says they'll start by cutting off one finger to teach him to take the temple seriously. Panicking, he tries to stop her, but his mind blanks because he can't remember her name, and that matters right now. Ignoring him, she snaps the order to cut it off, fully committed. One of the Bueni raises the knife high and swings down toward his hand. He screams, bracing for the pain that's about to hit. Time feels slow as the blade's edge flashes, closing in on its target. The knife keeps dropping, the cut now only a heartbeat away. The moment hangs on the sound of breath and steel, like the room is waiting to hear him break. Just before it lands, the motion stutters, as if something invisible grabbed the attack mid-air. The nun's eye widens in shock, realizing the strike didn't go the way she planned. He shouts for them to wait as the blade freezes in place, stopped by some sudden force. Staring down at him, she goes silent, confused and tense as she tries to understand what he just did. Her face twists with anger, thinking he said something outrageous, and now she's ready to explode. Leaning in, she demands to know who he really is, while he stays weirdly calm, like he's finally in control. Caught off guard, Anna barges in and demands to know who Zephyr is, while he just lounges there like he owns the place. Before she can even process it, two armed goons act polite, but Anna coldly orders them both to leave at once. With a loud crash, the thugs scramble out and Anna stands at the door in tense silence, still boiling. Not giving him any room to dodge, she slams a hand down and tells him to be honest, then snaps when he brings up a name he should not know. With a smug grin, Zephyr plays friendly and calls her famous, then hits her with her underworld title, White Rose, right to her face. As the story frames her double life, it explains Anna Primrose is a holy nun by day, but a criminal broker who deals in monster parts and stolen goods, and she knows cheap gear can get people killed. Seeing her glare, Zephyr says he wants a deal for better items and even thanks her for picking him up, then asks to untie him so they can talk properly. Under the night sky, he says he has a more productive proposal, and the scene shifts to an overhead view of the building Sahak is in. Suddenly, chaos erupts in a hospital room as furniture and tools fly, and a bandaged blonde agent thrashes on the bed while healers panic and beg him to rest. Sahak rages and swears he will kill Zephyr, who humiliated him. A cup clinks and rolls as someone steps in, and the room goes tense when Ned appears, making Sahak freeze on the spot. Keeping his tone calm, Ned greets Sahak, tells him not to get up, and sends the healers away, then mentions he heard about Sahak's little accident. Even while apologizing, Sahak still looks furious, and in the next instant, a blade flashes as he snaps and swings. Without effort, Ned restrains him and quietly shames him for pretending nothing happened, reminding him that Inquisitor Matthias warned them not to disgrace his name. With eyes like ice, Ned says Sahak got beaten in front of slaves like a stray dog, and Sahak's face twists as the insult sinks in. A slash lands and blood drips, while Ned explains they gave Sahak freedom because they expected a special gift after he found a Tartarus worshipper. Walking away, Ned asks how many worshippers Sahak caught in 6 months, and when the answer is only 2, he says the higher-ups are tired of Sahak's excuses. Pressing harder, Ned says Sahak has mocked the title of an Inquisitor's agent, and Sahak drops to the floor, begging for another chance. Not even looking moved, Ned listens as Sahak promises anything, then sets the condition with a cold demand. Leaning close, Ned orders Sahak to kill the man who humiliated him, and Sahak realizes that failing this means he loses the right to wear the red agent uniform. With a soft plop, Ned tosses Sahak a bundled item, and Sahak stares at it like he just got handed a curse. When the bundle opens, a purple, crackling orb is revealed, and Sahak panics as he explains it came from the room of the worshipper he caught before. Ned coolly says Sahak has nothing to lose either way, and warns him to choose without regrets, leaving Sahak sweating under the pressure. After the door slams, Sahak thinks about how hated he is and how many slaves he has killed, then laughs darkly because going back to being an ordinary slave would get him murdered. With no hesitation left, Sahak grabs the orb and tells himself he cannot lose everything now, then squeezes it hard and decides the other guy will die instead of him. Elsewhere in the hallway, Ned walks off laughing and tells a masked subordinate to watch Sahak closely and stop him from doing anything stupid. Smiling like a predator, Ned talks about people knowing their place and mocks Sahak's so-called talent, admitting he only helped to create a diversion. Because Sahak caused such a mess, Ned says the head of the Temple Knights has lowered his guard, and he lays out the plan to infiltrate their raid, steal the item, and kill the Knight Leader in the dungeon. With Tartarus's symbol blazing in his mind, Ned vows this mission will change their fate, then tells his man to investigate the mysterious fighter who showed up. Thinking back, Ned notes that white-haired guy used their martial arts, and since only the master and disciples know those moves, he wonders why the man did not approach in the usual way. Deciding the guy is dangerous, Ned says he could leak their secrets, and if he is not on their side, then they will erase him without mercy. Back with Anna, she bites her finger in frustration, thinking she judged that Zephyr is wrong, until he shows her the massive predator monster corpse like proof of skill. Acting way too casual, Zephyr asks if she likes it, and Anna blurts out that she loves it, then clears her throat and switches back to business mode. A list of goods lays it out. He is selling the predator corpse and wants high-level enchantments, a healing rosary, a salamander stone, and even an alchemy set rental plus rare herbs. Anna says she can get all of it, but the total cost is huge, and he needs to bring more predators, and he calmly agrees. promising 3 more in 3 weeks. Before sealing the deal, he pauses and says there is one more favor he needs, smiling like he is about to flip the whole situation again. Morning hits a quiet town, and everything feels calm and normal for once. Inside the lodge, the squad sits around a table, and Gote says they should all introduce themselves again for the newcomer. With a big grin, Gote goes first and acts like the friendly leader, trying to set the mood. Next up, they point out Marco as the unit's tank, and he greets the new guy like it's no big deal. Then Dale gets introduced as a strong sword fighter, but his quiet stare makes the room feel colder. Finally, Gote presents the promising new member, Zephyr, who just stands there with arms crossed and zero warmth. Trying to break the tension, Gote raises a drink and tells everyone to loosen up, but the others only glare. Caught off guard by the heavy mood, Gote asks why everyone is so tense and insists Zephyr is here to help. Marco notices the vibe is getting worse, and he can tell Zephyr is clearly not pleased. Looking at the small meal, Gote defends the welcome party food and admits they're all drowning in debt anyway. At that point, Zephyr finally speaks up, like he has something sharp to say. Not wanting any part of this drinking game, Zephyr stands and says he doesn't drink, making the others pause. Then Zephyr drops a bottle on the table and calls the usual booze trash, like he came prepared to flex. Seeing the fancy bottle, the team freaks out and starts asking where he even got something like that. Zephyr explains he got it from White Rose, a luxury item most slaves could never afford, and he pushes everyone to drink and work together. With the cups clinking, Zephyr thinks to himself that making them look good helps his own shady plan of stealing monster corpses. As the toast continues, the group accepts they're stuck together until the raid, whether they like it or not. In his head, Zephyr says he knew Gote from his last life too, so coaching him will be easy. But when he thinks about the other 2 members, he admits he doesn't know them because they weren't even alive at this time before. While watching them drink, Zephyr wonders if they'll cooperate with him at all. Dale's cold look makes it clear Zephyr is also thinking about what happens if they don't cooperate. Sipping calmly, Zephyr decides he'll figure it out soon enough. In his mind, he explains his logic. People like whoever gives them what they want, whether it's money, success, or feeling important. Even so, he notes there's always one annoying exception in every group, and his eyes narrow. Turning to Dale, Zephyr admits he won't play nice with someone who already hates him. Dale flat out thinks he doesn't like Zephyr, and his glare says he's not trying to hide it. Later, the unit talks business, and Gote explains this assignment matters a lot because levels decide how people treat you. Gote asks for cooperation and tells them to be nice to Zephyr, but the others still complain about trusting some minor. Dale accepts Gote as the leader, yet he's irritated Gote made big choices without asking them first. To be honest, Dale says the story sounds fake, and the idea of a minor beating a predator alone feels impossible to him. With voices rising, they argue about who really beat the predator and how the secret deal could get them jailed or even executed. Marco shushes them because someone is nearby, and the room suddenly feels dangerous in a different way. Trying to calm things down, Marco says Zephyr is already part of the unit, and they agreed to split rewards 3 ways, so they should wait and see. Dale slams his cup and refuses to wait, thinking Gote is clueless and Marco is only swayed by the fancy booze. Now fully set against him, Dale decides he won't accept Zephyr at all because he can smell trouble. Even while doubting him, Dale says they'll find out soon if Zephyr is scamming them because talking big won't keep anyone alive in this job. With their hunting team on the move, they head out to raid a dungeon for a living, marching into the wild. Their destination is Edorin, a cave town carved into a mountainside long ago. As they arrive, Marco is amazed a place like this is only a couple days from the temple, and he wonders how people even live in those caves. Gote explains the caves are basically full homes and inns used by temple missions and travelers needing healing. Marco jokes they should have come sooner, acting like this trip is a vacation. But the mood snaps back when they reach a web-filled entrance, and Gote points out the place is crawling with monsters. Stepping into the dark, Zephyr moves first, and the webs around the doorway make it feel like a trap. As they push deeper, the ruined room is covered in strands, and every step feels like it could set something off. Reaching his hand out, Zephyr activates mana perception to sense what's hidden in the webbed darkness. Using mana to map the area, he reads the shapes and movements around them, especially anything infused with mana. Crouching low, Zephyr leads the group forward like a scout, while the others follow and try not to touch anything. With a sudden realization, they suspect the monster here is a black steel spider. Gathering in a quick huddle, Zephyr confirms he found traces at the entrance, so the threat is real. With a steady stare, Zephyr says he has a plan and takes control of the talk. He explains they'll avoid webs, find the baby spider hole, pour in a paralyzing drug, wait a minute, and wipe them out. Zephyr adds he must keep mana perception running, and since the spiders sleep in the day, they just need to approach carefully. But Dale suddenly objects. Dale says this isn't about being easy or hard, because if that monster is real, the risk is insane. Pushing back hard, Dale claims the four of them can't beat a black steel spider on their own. The story lays it out. Their skin is like steel, swords won't pierce, their attacks hit hard, and they breed fast enough to build an army. Dale insists they should report the dungeon to the temple or bring a combat team, because they aren't strong enough alone. Zephyr agrees that's a fine idea, then basically tells Dale he can stay outside if he's scared. With a smug edge, Zephyr says he can clear the dungeon by himself anyway, like Dale is dead weight. Dale didn't expect that answer, but it only makes him more sure something is off. In his mind, Dale decides Zephyr is definitely a con man. He remembers the claim about Zephyr hunting a predator alone, and it still doesn't sit right. Thinking further, Dale also recalls the rumor of Zephyr fighting the Inquisitor agent Sahak, yet he never saw proof with his own eyes. Because he didn't witness any of it, Dale convinces himself this dungeon can't be that dangerous and Zephyr must be bluffing. So Dale decides Zephyr only talked big to stop them from coming, and now Dale wants to test how long that bluff can last. Reaching out without thinking, Dale touches a web strand and hears a sharp snap that screams mistake. His eye goes wide as he realizes he just triggered something, and panic hits fast. Shaking his hand, Dale tries to pull free, but the sticky thread won't come off at all. The web tightens as he struggles harder, and more glowing eyes start appearing in the dark. A swarm of baby spiders crawls out, surrounding Dale while the webbing holds him in place. Dale freezes, sweating as he understands just how bad this is. The spiders suddenly lunge together, rushing him like a wave of steel and teeth. Dale screams as the attack comes down on him, and he can't even move right. Seeing Dale's mess, Zephyr stays calm and says it's finally time to get started for real. With no hesitation, Zephyr swings his hand out, ready to use his mana like a weapon. As the spiders jump in, Zephyr grabs Dale and yanks him away from the strike zone, forcing the fight to begin on Zephyr's terms. Even after the rescue, the spiders crash into them, and Zephyr has to block head-on as the swarm slams into his guard. A swarm of glowing-eyed spiders rushes in from the dark, moving like a wave that wants to swallow the whole team. Caught off guard, Dale throws his arm up and yells as one of the monsters dives straight at him. Meanwhile, Zephyr stays calm and signals that it is time to begin the plan. With a sharp motion, Zephyr reaches out like he is about to grab the whole fight by the throat. Seeing the spiders close in, Zephyr pulls Dale out of the way while the pack jumps in from every side. In the same beat, Zephyr blocks a spider with his forearm and stops its fangs cold. When the spider bites down, it makes a weird cracking sound like it hit something it cannot break. With a smug look, Zephyr taunts the spider for not being able to pierce him even while it keeps biting. Not wasting time, Zephyr swings a heavy punch, blasting blue force through the air. That hit lands like a bomb and sends the spider's body flying back through the web-filled space. Dale watches the monster tumble away, shocked at how hard Zephyr just smacked it. Then Zephyr shouts for everyone to group up since the spiders are surrounding them fast. As footsteps scrape the ground, the team closes ranks and prepares to fight together. With webs hanging overhead, the four of them form a tight formation and brace for the swarm's next crash. Right away, the spiders start spraying thick threads like bullets, trying to lock them in place. Keeping his voice steady, Zephyr admits plans can fail in a dungeon, then orders Marco to wrap his hammer with Zephyr's cloak. Next, he tells Dale and Gote to cover their weapons too, warning that normal blades cannot cut these webs. Following that idea, Marco slams his cloak-wrapped hammer forward and tears open the web wall by force. When it works, Marco realizes the webs stick but are weak enough that he can keep swinging anyway. Still, he panics about the sheer number of spiders, since they keep coming in waves too big to count. Not wanting to get boxed in, Dale starts swatting spiders away with angry swings to make space. At the same time, a spider hops and dashes straight toward him like a missile. Dale slashes it mid-air, but the sudden rush nearly clips him as he grits his teeth. Sweating hard, Dale yells for the others to hurry up and keep moving with the plan. From behind the swarm, Zephyr explains the next step is to gather the monsters around them before he finishes it. As Dale and Zephyr strike together, Zephyr says he will handle the mass of spiders once they are all in range. After the blast of fighting, one spider drops and twitches while the air fills with heavy breathing. With webs draped everywhere, the team stands among fallen bodies and wonders if they finally got them all. Dale clutches his shoulder and admits the cut is deep and his pain is starting to pulse. Embarrassed, Dale thinks he underestimated the spiders and hates that he has to rely on Zephyr. Without acting proud, Zephyr offers Dale a drink meant for recovery and makes it sound like a simple fix. Holding the bottle out, Zephyr explains it is recovery water mixed with medicinal herbs, basically a potion substitute. Then he tells Dale that mistakes happen, but he should learn and not repeat them. Dale sits there clenching the bottle while Zephyr quietly chuckles and admits Dale is not that bad. As he watches them, Zephyr thinks about how he used to train hopeless rookies and notes Dale actually listens and has real potential. Even so, Zephyr figures Dale is the type who only learns by feeling it himself, not just hearing advice. With a sharp glance, Zephyr notices Dale is still suspicious of him, but believes the dungeon will force Dale to choose his path. In Zephyr's mind, that choice is whether Dale stays outside dungeons like a coward or stops resisting and follows Zephyr's lead. Before anyone can relax, Dale launches forward and slices into another big spider that is still moving. Right after, Marco drives his weapon in with a full-body thrust, making the monster scream as it gets pinned. Marco realizes Zephyr's trick worked since the paralyzing drug is slowing the spiders down. Taking that opening, Dale winds up and swings again with more control than before. His blade stabs deep, and the impact lands clean like he finally found the right spot. From the back, Zephyr tells them the belly is soft compared to the back, and Dale admits Zephyr has been right about everything so far. As another cut tears through, Dale thinks Zephyr even knows the monster's habits, weaknesses, and the best way to beat them. While striking again, Dale can't stop wondering how Zephyr knows all this like it is written in a guidebook. Dale's frustration spikes, and he mentally demands to know who Zephyr really is. A heavy crack echoes as something shifts, like the dungeon itself is groaning at what comes next. Still pushing forward, Dale carves another sweeping arc, forcing the huge spider's body to twist under the blow. When the monster finally drops, the team celebrates the finish, and Dale acts tough like it was easy. From a short distance, Zephyr praises Dale for improving and tells him to keep it up. As Zephyr sits on the pile of dead spiders like a king, The others stare and wonder how many he killed so casually. The scene holds on Zephyr perched above them, making the gap between his strength and theirs feel even bigger. With the room quiet, Zephyr calls for a 1-minute rest and orders Gote to bring out the food. While they eat, Marco asks what Zephyr used to do, and Zephyr answers that he was an adventurer. Not satisfied, Marco asks if Zephyr trained under a famous master or belonged to a major guild. Dale listens closely and thinks he wants the answer too, because none of this feels normal. Zephyr only hums and smiles a little, repeating the word master like it brings up old memories. Suddenly, the story flashes to Zephyr training hard, with a hooded figure watching him in silence. The hooded watcher's golden eyes stare forward, sharp and cold enough to make the air feel heavy. Back in the present, Zephyr's eye tightens, like that memory still has claws in him. Then Marco says there is only the boss room left, and the team asks Zephyr what they should do next. Instead of answering right away, Zephyr starts chopping up spider parts like it is routine work, making the others pause in confusion. With one clean split, he cracks open a section and reveals something inside that looks worth taking. Standing tall, Zephyr calmly swings a massive, curved, claw-like weapon as if testing its balance. Finally, Zephyr turns serious and tells the group they have done their part. With no room for debate, he orders everyone to leave now, making it clear he plans to face what comes next alone.